All right, welcome back to another edition of the Santa Fe New Mexican Sports Podcast. I'm your sports editor, Will Weber. As always, joined by my esteemed colleague, James Barron. We tried to actually do this podcast yesterday or this morning, but
this morning.
your hamster didn't have enough.
Oh, the hamster was dead, man. It was on life support.
Yeah. I was like, this is going to be another one of those Andrew Dunn / Kamal Stith interviews where it just keeps.
Yeah, we were going to have to start and stop and start and stop, and next thing you know, it's 5 and we haven't gotten through 5 minutes, right?
Right. So we usually do this podcast on Tuesday. It's Wednesday afternoon now because we're, it's slightly busy for us this week.
Coach.
Yeah, just a little bit. But yesterday was interesting because I was going to go down to golf in Elephant Butte. You wound up going to my place because I had to go to a press conference at UNM. But I was kind of grateful that I didn't go because, first of all, I understand they played a 7-hour round of golf. And then second, it was like 175 degrees in Elephant Butte yesterday. So
yeah.
I did think about you.
Balmy in TRC, okay?
Yeah, when I was sitting in my air-conditioned room doing the Eric Olen press conference, I thought about you walking on a golf course.
Yeah, poor guy, right?
Yeah.
Good thing I'm in my air-conditioned home.
How on earth do you play a 6.5, 7-hour round of golf? That's what I want to know. That's like the real story. Like,
it helps when you have a group that's determined to play an 8-hour round of golf. It was bizarre. I really do think it was one particular group, and I won't mention names, but it did involve one of our schools. Let's just put it that way.
And they weren't mention names. No one watches this anyway.
And they wear red, and they're how should I say, they're a bird variety. So I think you can pretty much figure out who it was. But yeah, the second to last group or the pairing that we had, to call them slow as molasses would have been disingenuous to molasses. I mean, they were slower than that. They were determined to play a 9-hour round and maybe try to get the whole tournament called because of darkness, but they couldn't quite pull it off. The front 9 for the last group, which actually involved or included Robertson's Peyton Wolf, who ended up finishing second in the tournament. They got to the turn after to the 9th hole in about 3 hours and 45 minutes. So they were on their way to over a 7-hour final round. They picked it up a little bit in the second half, and they actually ended up getting done, I think, just a tick over 6.5 hours. So that was nice of them to do for the rest of us, because we were also waiting for a playoff between the two boys golfers from Dexter and Socorro. And before we could even get to the awards ceremony, we had to wait for them to finish their playoff. So it was probably close to 6 o'clock before they did all the awards ceremonies.
Gosh, for a tournament that started, at 10 a.m.?
9 a.m. I mean, first group went off at 9, and we didn't get out of there until 6.
Yeah, that's uncalled for. Yeah, and if you'd left right in the middle of it in protest, I'd have completely understood.
No, unfortunately, I was dumb enough to think that I could actually do my job despite that.
Well, here we are on Wednesday, and Wednesday was the start of the resumption of the high school state softball tournament, which I know you were at this morning. I know the NMA did put out a press release this afternoon talking about some field issues in Rio Rancho, which didn't affect us directly.
Not at all, thank God.
Yeah, right. And then now as you can tell, I'm in Isotopes Park because Kiké Hernández is in town, the Los Angeles Dodgers outfielder. He's here on a rehab assignment, so they finally gave him media access today. So it's supposed to start at 3:15. He didn't come out of the locker room and out of the batting cage until about 3:50. So that was nice. So that's.
He wanted to see if you guys really wanted to see him.
Yeah. The thing is, he played here last night, and he got a huge ovation, which you don't typically see for players when they come down. Like Cody Bellinger, he was an MVP when he came down here in a rehab assignment a few years ago. And he was a nice round of applause. But when he stepped to the plate last night, people legitimately were happy to see him. He's got a fun personality, just an outgoing personality, just kind of a cool guy. Even though I despise the Dodgers with every fiber of my being, it was just kind of cool to see. And plus, I did ask him this, and I'm going to use this in my story for tomorrow, but he was involved in one of the most memorable defensive plays in World Series history last year, where he and Baez collided at the wall in Game 7 made that amazing catch that preserved the game and allowed the Dodgers to go on to win and the whole thing. But yeah, it would be a Canadian world right now had he not been involved in that play. And of course, I asked him that, and he's like, "Well, ball hit over my head, and someone else caught it." It's like, really, dude, come on, come on. So anyway,
Yeah, that was the Captain Obvious response to that question.
yeah, it's like, no, if I were involved in that play, I'd have said a little bit more. But hey, oh well.
Yeah, I know, but apparently he either wants to be modest or B, he was saving his answer for Jeff Grammer.
Yeah, right. He's waiting for the real journalist to ask. So softball, apparently they forgot to turn off the sprinklers in Rio Rancho. Is that what happened?
Apparently so. There was an issue with the sprinkler system there that caused some flooding in the outfield. So 2 of the fields tomorrow for the 4A and 5A bracket will not be available. So they had to reconfigure the bracket to get all the games in. So they're going to be playing from about 9 o'clock up until about 6:30 tomorrow night. And that's just the first round. Everybody gets one game in. Friday is going to be the big day where, they really do need the 4 fields if they're going to get this done, or else they might have to look at an alternate site, maybe Rio Rancho, which is about the closest thing you could go to in that area. But it sounds to me like those fields will be available Friday for the double elimination portion of it, because that's when you start really knocking out teams, and that's really the longest day of the season for softball teams.
Yeah.
Because if you're if you lose in the winners bracket semifinal, you have to play 3 times just to get back to the championship game on Saturday, and then you got to play at least 2 more games to win the state title if you're from the loser's side. So you're talking about 5 games in 2 days. Very few teams have been able to pull that off. So it really hurts those teams that kind of lose in the winners bracket semis. We'll have to wait and see, because St. Mike's is going to be one of those that has to do that tomorrow. As we'll get ready to talk about. We had one northern team advance in the winners bracket of the softball tournament in 3A. We had another one that lost. Both of them were fairly close games, actually identical 3-2 scores. West winning and St. Mike's losing, and so that's kind of where we're at on that end.
Yeah, West Las Vegas, the number 1 seed. Of course, there's a certain amount of pressure that comes with being number 1, but St. Mike's has not really been here in a while. I know they've had some runs in the past where they've gotten deep into the state tournament, but this year just feels different. Like they look like a different team, but to lose, but essentially in one of those quarterfinals was kind of a big blow, because you're right, it's not easy. You're really yourself.
It's not an easy path. Now, the first game, I don't think they should have a problem, because they're going to be facing Tularosa. They should be able to win that. And, I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see Nadia Cedillo, the St. Michael's ace, pitch for a lot of that game, if any of it, especially if the game's pretty much in hand. They're going to save her probably for the semifinal game in the consolation bracket, where they'll face the winner of either Cobre or Santa Fe Indian School. So there's a possibility we could have 2 district teams play their way into the consolation bracket finals, and then the winner there at 2:30 would play the loser between West Las Vegas and Dexter. So there's a possibility we could see, West Las Vegas maybe in the losers bracket playing either Indian School or St. Mike's. So there's a lot of softball left to be played for District 2 AAA. Today was a pretty fun game, for West Las Vegas, not so much if you're St. Mike's, as people will read tomorrow. West, strangest thing that I've never seen this before. I saw a team pitch around another hitter to face the best, maybe the best hitter in AAA, if not one of the best hitters in the state, and Malia Mugi Satete. She holds the state record in home runs. She only has 15 home runs this year. It's kind of it's been a down year, just because she doesn't have the kind of support behind her in the lineup like she did the last couple of years. But she's still cranking the crap out of the ball, and they pitched around Tyra Horner, who was the number 2 hitter in the lineup in the first inning, to pitch to her, and Mugi hit one out basically for all the runs that West Las Vegas had, and she pitched the rest of the way, and they win 3-2. So that was something that kind of blew my mind, and everybody on the St. Mike side was like, "What are they doing? You don't found somebody to pitch to the best hitter in 3A, and then obviously you paid the price." And then on the flip side, St. Michael's, they struggled early on. They were down 3-0 into the 5th inning, or actually into the 6th inning. They finally get their offense going, had a chance to tie the game in the 7th. They got 2 runners on right off the bat, and then they had a batter that laid down a really good squeeze, actually beat it out. The problem is that the runner at third, who was a tying run, got a horrible start, didn't bother to slide and gets tagged out at home for the second out, and St. Mike's ended up stranding the tying run at second base to end the game.
I kind of put the whole pitching thing on where they tried to pitch around to get to Moogie on you, because that's why they have media timeouts. You should have called the media timeout and said, "Coach, don't do that." So it's kind of on it's your fault they did that.
Yeah, I know. That's people don't read my stuff and they don't listen very well. Right. But the big part of the reason was when West Las Vegas played Cobre back in March, it was Horner that actually hurt them more than Satete. She had 2 home runs that were the difference in the game. They ended up beating Cobre 4-1 in that matchup, and they were determined not to let her beat them. And then the Beast ends up slaying you anyhow. So kind of a pick your poison type of situation. And at the end of the day, they probably regret doing that, or else they would have won the game.
Before we take our commercial break, we have commercials now. We're going to take a commercial break. Before we do that, we'll talk some baseball, and then we'll come back and hit on some college stuff to close out the program. But baseball tournament resumes Thursday morning. 3 of the 4 AAA games are involving teams from our area. No one else made it this far. No AA teams.
That's all we got, right?
No 4A, no Santa Fe High. Much to our managing editor's chagrin, Santa Fe High did not make it to the state baseball tournament. So that just leaves District 2 AAA, St. Mike's. And look, I've written about this a million times. I'm sure the St. Mike's.
We've written about this a million times. Let's be honest, not just you.
They are sick and tired of hearing this, but they have not won a state tournament game since 2019. St. Mike's has not scored in the state tournament each of the last 2 years that they were here. So every time they're a top 4 seed, it's a kiss of death because they go straight down the pooper. And look, they're a top 4 seed. There's expectations. People are looking for them to win. And you're carrying that into your first round game tomorrow morning at 9:30 against a team that you beat 27-0 earlier in the year. So maybe this is the year where they finally break the curse. Maybe. We'll see.
Well, you got to bring old stuff up, Will. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, you act like this year's team was last year's team, but we all know it's going to be different. They're gonna pound the crap out of Cobre, and they're going to get to the semifinals, and they're all going to sit there and say, "I told you so."
Yeah. Well, you showed me 7 years between wins. Man, I am humbled.
Well, that means if they do it this year, then 2033 will be the next time they do this.
Right, exactly. But they are throwing Adam Bird tomorrow. And then, like, St. Mike's has got 3 really good pitchers, Adam Bird, Andre Bryant, and Carson West. And if all 3 of those guys can eat up 5 or more innings, they are in pretty good shape. The AAA field is dominated by East Mountain, the number 1 seed. But the Indian School, Santa Fe Indian School, if you've ever watched them play, they're not dominant in any one thing that they do. They're good at everything. They don't give up a lot of runs. They don't hurt themselves a lot on defense. Yeah. They hit the ball enough. They run the bases aggressively enough to just keep you on your heels. They don't give up a ton of runs. They're just one of those teams that's scrappy. They'll take the extra base when they have to, and they're molded differently than any other team that's in the field. A lot of these guys that are in the field from 3A, 4A, and 5A all play club ball. They play year-round of these expensive travel teams. The Indian School doesn't necessarily do that. These kids all grow up playing in the men's leagues on their home pueblos. Sometimes they'll have a showcase team that travels around and plays other native teams. They're just a different-looking team, and they're fun to watch. And the thing is, they've never really been in this situation as a 3A school. So it's kind of like, let's take this car out and see what happens. And it's a refreshing look at a team that has never really been here before. So in some way, it's a cool thing to watch the Indian School do something that they've never done. And then, of course, you have West Las Vegas, the number 4 seed. And I've written this into my story that's coming out tomorrow, is the key component for West Las Vegas is composure. You have got to keep a cool head because you're going to get a bad call. You're going to get screwed on a balls and strikes or a steal of second. You're going to have a bad inning where something just goes south. Do not come unglued. And that's been their Achilles heel. They're so talented that they can beat almost anybody, but you've got to keep your head on straight. Can they do that? Because at some point tomorrow, it's going to go south on them. Just hold your head together. Just keep it cool.
Come on, that's the West way. You're supposed to play this game with emotion. Come on, Will.
I know. Hey, West Las Vegas, the place where visiting journalists get booed. I found that out when I went up
absolutely.
there. So
Yeah, right up there with Espanola. You've
yeah,
gotten booed. I've had water bottles thrown at me. So two of our favorite places right there.
My advice to anyone going to state softball or state baseball, state softball, take a lot of extra stuff because it's going to be all backlogged since they don't have fields that are field ready apparently. And baseball, get there early because if you've ever been to the Albuquerque Sports Complex, parking is virtually non-existent after the first 120 cars.
Yeah,
So you're going to be parking a long ways away, and it's supposed to be in the low 90s tomorrow. So it's a lot of asphalt you're walking through just to get up to the facility. So
I'm really looking forward to it because this is going to be 3 straight days where I've had to deal with 90+ degree temperatures in a heat of the day. That's going to be awesome. If I'm not dead by tomorrow, I'm just going to be I'm just going to be crispy. I'm going to be bacon, basically.
If anyone wants to run down James Barron at the state softball tournament or the state track and field meet later this week, look for the guy who looks like melted ice cream. That's going to be James Barron.
Hey, that's a compliment if I look like melted ice cream by the time Saturday rolls around.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll talk back. We'll come back. University of New Mexico signed their basketball coach to a very lucrative contract earlier this week. And then, of course, there's all that fallout from New Mexico Highlands, the team up the road. We'll talk a little bit about that and then put a bow on this thing. We'll be right back.
I'm David. I work for Chevron, and this is my New Mexico. Chevron's been here for 100 years. My family could go back even further. All of my brothers work in energy.
I grew up in Farmington, New Mexico. There is a lot to love about New Mexico. We are raising our kids here.
We're here for the long term. I'm paving the way for my daughters so that they feel the same pride in New Mexico.
Here we go.
All right, we're back. Before we resume, James, I think now is the time to remind people to subscribe to our newsletter. You go to the Santa Fe New Mexicans website, you go into the newsletters, sports. There's only one newsletter, people, so you can jump in there, subscribe to it. We update it at least once a week.
Yep.
And every week, I always forget to do it, and it takes me about 10 minutes to write that thing, and it takes me all week to forget about it. So sorry about that, but subscribe to the newsletter. Of course, as the summer goes along, we'll come up with more interesting things to put in there too, since high school is about to take a 3-month hiatus.
Yes,
but there's always the Fuego. The Santa Fe Fuego started at the end of the month.
Hey, before we move on to more important, more pressing needs, I just want to know, why isn't Chevron, our wonderful sponsors, why haven't they bestowed upon us some swag?
And you'd be wearing your Chevron shirt.
Heck yeah, I'll wear the trucker's hat, man. That'd be perfect.
This James Barron lunch break brought to you by Chevron.
Chevron.
You can do that.
Hey, I already ate, man. I was actually, when we were supposed to do this initially again at like 3:45 while you're getting stood up by Kiké Hernández, I was actually enjoying an orange. I was waiting for somebody to tell me that we were coming on an hour later.
You know, and speaking of meals, I can smell the buffet. That they have a nice media buffet here, which I miss the days of covering the Isotopes on a daily basis because I forgot they actually feed you and they feed you well.
Are they doing the teriyaki stuff again? Because they did that the first day for opening day, and it was delicious, man.
I can't really tell what's in there, but it smells great. After getting stood up by Kiké Hernández for 40 minutes, I'm ready to eat.
I think sports writers love to talk about sports and food.
Yeah, food and movies. We could break down movie reviews all day too, but that's for maybe we'll save some of that for the summer.
For the summer, yeah, we got to have something to talk about and write about.
Yeah, well, speaking of other stuff, on Monday, the University of New Mexico announced they were extending men's basketball coach Eric Olen. They tore up his first contract because he's been there 1 year, and they gave him an extension which carries him through the 2030-31 season. He'll be averaging $1.45 million a year throughout the length of the contract. It's back heavy, so he'll be making a lot more money at the back end than he will be at the front. But he gets a $100,000 signing bonus each of the first 2 years, the first of which comes up in a couple weeks at the end of this month is the first retention bonus.
Wow.
And on top of that, it's about they're giving a comfortable six figures to his staff, which is nice because you have to keep your assistants around. You have to keep them happy.
Yes,
They're the
I
people
do.
that do the yeoman's work. And then a lot of money goes towards the players too, because we're in a different day and age of NIL and collective, the whole thing where you got a revenue share with all these guys. And so that was kind of we covered the contract the first day. Yesterday on Tuesday, we had a chance to sit down with Eric Olen and discuss it with him. And really, I think the focus became where does the money come from? Because they're a school that has a football coach who's making about 1.5, 1.6 million. Basketball coach is making almost that same amount. And NIL or the revenue sharing, which is said to be somewhere in the $4 to $6 million range. I'm not really sure how much that is. You're spending a lot of money on these athletes, the coaches, and the programs. Whereas this is a school, this is a department that was hemorrhaging cash 10 years ago. Enough to the point where they had to cut programs, they cut sports just to make ends meet. And granted, that was from really shoddy financial wranglings from the staff back then, which are all gone. But yeah, it just makes you wonder where all the money's coming from. Is there a huge donor? Did Mark Zuckerberg come out and write a giant check, or what? How's that happening? So a lot of unanswered questions, but the bottom line is Eric Olen is one of the top probably 0.01% of people in New Mexico making a lot of money to coach basketball.
I was going to say maybe that's where all the Highlands money went.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Instead of getting that $85 million to redo the entire athletics facility.
Yeah, Highlands is paying for Olen. So
went straight to Olen and Jake Hall. So Jake Hall's making about probably $64 million this year. So
and the wonderful city of Las Vegas says you're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. And the Highlands thing, that's of course the one thing I really like about the Highlands thing is when someone says that you're on administrative leave. That is human resources jargon for pack your and get out.
Exactly.
You're on administrative leave. That's where they can't legally come out and say you're fired. Yeah, but you're gone. And so there's a lot of people at the high-end jobs at Highlands who are on administrative leave. So
well, three of them were fired. And here's something we didn't really talk about maybe as much, but I find it interesting that obviously September, depending on who you talk to, I mean that was a weird thing with September, but because depending on who you talk to, he was either fired or he resigned or he's on paid leave. But regardless, all of his bases are covered. He's not there. No matter how you slice it, he's not there. But getting back to the other part with President Wolf, it's interesting that I find that he was on paid leave, but yet his vice presidents for advancement, and I forget the other two.
The provost.
The provost and
vice president for governmental affairs.
Governmental affairs were all fired, which makes me wonder: is it that he did something wrong, or is it that he hired people that did something wrong and he's paying the price for it?
Yeah, look, you and I run into stories like this all the time, where we hear so many things, probably 94% of which never sees the print, never sees the light of day, because in some ways you just can't verify a lot of the stuff. But the stuff we've heard behind the scenes about what's really taking place in Highlands would make the National Enquirer sell out. It's just some pretty salacious stuff. And one of the things that I think I can say with confidence is there was some misappropriation of funds that involved the track at the university, where you and I have both been up there. The track around the football field
desperately needs work.
It was installed in 1997, and when it was installed, it was this nice, deep, lush purple. You go up there now, it's almost like a bleached whale on a beach that just it's barely
There's a carcass that they're running through, right?
Yeah, it's barely shades of lavender. It's like it's pretty white. It looks.
I was gonna say, is it white or is it gray at that point?
Yeah, it's all wrinkled, and it's a risk management violation. So they were gonna supposedly replace that, and the bigger story here is that Bob DeVries, the head track and field coach in New Mexico Highlands, still continues to send kids to the national track meet.
Yeah, amazing. Despite the track that he has.
Yeah, and you'd think they'd be really good at hurdles because you're basically running over all those bumps and indentations in the track. I mean, that's probably why they're so good at it, because they'd be great at steeplechase because you have to run over all the ruts in the track. But that to me, I've heard that was one of the things is they were supposed to replace the track and they spent the money elsewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I'll say this story without actually mentioning the name who I was speaking to, but I was on the phone with one of the higher ups there. We were discussing all personnel matters at New Mexico Highlands, and I was told that the way it happens is Human Resources sends you an email saying, jump on a Zoom call with us in 20 minutes. And this person said that's how it works. That's how you know you're getting fired. And sure enough, while I was talking to that person, that email arrived in that person's inbox. They said, meet with us in 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
An hour later, I spoke to that very same person and said, yes, I was just fired. Or I was placed on administrative leave. In my entire life, I've never actually spoken to someone in real time as they were getting fired or placed on administrative leave. But yeah, tough spot. It was just a surreal experience. And of course, people threaten to sue and they're threatening all sorts of wild stuff. But it's a tidal wave of this blew right through Highlands.
Yeah, exactly. And just to tie this up with what we were talking about initially here. I mean, when you hear Eric Olen getting 1.45, I'm like, boy, that's a rather specific number. But then if you think about it, well, maybe that's why, maybe we're onto something. Maybe there is a conspiracy here. Maybe Highlands is for that thing and we just don't know about it.
Right.
It's 1.45 and not like 1.5 or 1.6.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, I guess at the end of the day, you and I can just look at each other in the mirror and say, we chose the wrong profession. We should have coached basketball.
Once again, how many times have we said that about so many different professions?
Yeah. Here I am at Isotopes Park looking at all these people who are working here, and they all probably make a lot more money than we could have done, and but that's okay.
Yeah, that's true. Right. Well, one of our good friends, Brandon Ortega, man, he's got a great job because what does he do? He handles orbit.
Yeah. He's the orbit handler is what he does.
The orbit whisperer right there.
That's right. Well, looking forward to the end of the high school sports season, which in a couple days for us, it ends Saturday. It usually ends with the 1600 relay or 400 relay on track and field, or the 5A baseball game, whichever one comes first. It's usually a race between those two to be the last sporting event, and then we get into our athletes of the year stuff, and then we start becoming Fuego beat writers and finding things to do. We basically stare at each other looking for things to do for the next 2 months.
You got the Fuego, I'll take care of the United, and then we'll see each other again in August, for first day of two-a-days.
Yeah, but speaking of the United here, I'm looking out at Isotopes Park's field, and you can still see the very faint lines.
See the faint lines from their games over the weekend.
Yeah, I should have asked Kiké Hernández that. Say, hey, how many times you play at Dodger Stadium where there's soccer lines drawn into the outfield? None.
None. Never.
Yeah.
Never. Well, that would be another interesting discussion. And by the way, one of the things that we probably are going to do over the summer is we're going to get on Peter Trevisani and we're going to talk a little United Soccer and obviously the future of that organization and the stadium. Yeah.
Well, the state deserves 2 venues at least.
They do.
It would be nice to have a marquee venue where you could play the state championship matches as well, which would be fun.
Nothing against the UM soccer complex, but I mean, come on, 15,000 seat arena stadium that's specifically for soccer. That's pretty cool.
Well, that'll do it for this week. Really, try not to look like melted ice cream, and I'll try not to get sunburned too badly at baseball. But
dude, you're going to be in your element there. Let's be honest.
Baseball, it's my thing. Here I am watching the grounds crew finishing up the touches. It makes me want to run down there and grab a rake because it's very, what is it? It's ASMR. It's very appealing. It's very soothing to look at guys just rake a field and manicure it. So down here, you got people raking the field, and over here, you got about 100 people lining up for Kiké Hernández to come out of the Oklahoma City dugout waiting for his autograph, hoping to grab
Wow,
it.
already, man, it's barely 5 o'clock. Jeez, man, they get out there early, don't they?
It's the entire railing that leads into the visiting clubhouse is full of people. So
Wow, you think he was a rock star or something, not a baseball player.
yeah. Kiké. All right, folks, that'll do it. Once again, subscribe to our newsletter. Go to the Santa Fe New Mexican website. Go into our newsletters. Follow the links into the sports. It's called Inside the Huddle, I think. In the Huddle.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
Something like
you're
that.
close enough.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
give us
think
a follow,
just
and
give
then
it okay that you nailed it.
there you go. Yeah, give us a follow, and we'll keep you updated as to all things sports over the next couple of weeks. But again, if you have an athlete of the week suggestion, go ahead.
It's your last week. After that, we're not taking them.
Right? Your last chance. All right, folks. Thanks.